for a place, especially in GPS, we have hiding. And I put in and took us to a dead-end road. And it kept telling us to go, but we couldn't go any further because it was a for directions. And we had to go through a security point. And when you go through a security point, you can't go back, because then you start turning around and they're going to question why you're turning around. So we went on through, asked them some questions, and they couldn't tell us where we were going. So they show us this map. It's getting frustrating and confusing now. So we drove around a little bit further. We find a policeman, and the policeman, he's trying to help us. He's using the same GPS I'm using. He gets his phone out, I've got my phone, and his phone is telling something different than mine. So we eventually, I called Tanya, and Tanya said, and I knew she was gonna help us. I knew that. I trusted her to help us. And so she was trying to help us to find different landmarks. So we couldn't find the landmarks, and so I told Bob, I said, well, so then Tanya calls back, and she says, Sydney can send you her location.
All right.
She sent us her location, and the phone talked us all the way to our destination, just by the mere fact of her sending us her location.
All right.
So we trust a lot of things. Barbara talked earlier about our aunt who trusted the chair. She said, we trust when we go to the doctor orders a prescription, that prescription is going to do exactly what he tells it to do, right? But there might be some side effects to it, but we trust that doctor to write that prescription, and then it's going to fix everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You feel better. So the headache you had or the ache and pain you had, you're sitting there in the doctor's office and you're wondering, why am I here? Because everything has gone away.
My Lord.
I used to not take Tylenol because I knew as soon as I put trust, we trust. We trust those who govern us to make those laws, those policies that are going to help to make the world better. We even trust the preachers and the teachers to teach the Word of God, but we are held responsible for what we teach. So when you study the lives of the New Testament people, there is an obvious connection between faith, courage, and fear.
All right.
Jesus often told his followers, fear not, be of good courage, or do not be afraid. So what is courage? It is the ability to conquer, to overcome fear. The ability to do something that frightens us. There is an excellent reason for such instructions from Jesus. People controlled by terror lack courage. You remember the story of the cowardly lion in The Wizard of Oz? He lacked courage, and he went on a journey with a group of people that he didn't even know, trying to find courage. We need to carefully and properly understand the relationship between faith and courage. The fact that people of faith have fears or no fear is not the issue. Their faith is demonstrated in their courage to face their fears, to refuse to be controlled by their fear. So being a person of courage does not mean being a person of self-confidence with a huge ego. It does not mean one is a person who loves to talk about their accomplishments, their abilities, and their boldness. If that is a person's concept, the shy, the quiet, the unassuming, the disadvantaged, and the abused are capable of great courage and great faith. Courage that allows faith to exist is the courage to trust God when confronting real threats. So what are some real threats? Always our health. There's something always going on that's going to impact our health. There's unemployment, there's violence. We can't turn on the TV without hearing about violence. Last night we were watching the news, and I think there was about 7 recorded episodes of violence in St. Louis. behavioral issues with our children, bullying in the school, and so many others that we can't count. Great courage is not found. Declare, if you trust God, you will have increased trouble. Our faith can be demonstrated when we are in a situation that tests the courage of our conviction, such as in this woman who had an issue of crossed the Sea of Galilee to the land of Gerasenes. There he healed a demon-possessed man who had been uncontrollable. The demons, by request, entered a herd of pigs that ran down into the sea and drowned. The people, controlled by fear, asked Jesus to leave their country. Jesus crossed the sea and returned to Galilee. Upon returning, Jesus encountered a multitude, and Jairus, a ruler of the synagogue, was one of them. Jairus begged Jesus to help his daughter, who was about to die. Jesus was on his way to Jairus' home when he had this encounter with this woman. Mark said to the multitude, get to Jesus for the people. The woman in the incident had a long-standing medical problem. And the Bible is recorded to say it lasted for 12 years. Can you imagine having something that's bothering you, that's hurting you for 12 years? That was an issue for her. Now, we have lots of issues in our life, right? Different issues. We all are in this building together. We all have different issues. We may not have this bleeding disorder that this woman had, but we all have an issue. We know nothing else about this woman. Nothing else was recorded about her. She was unusual because she was determined to find a cure for her ailment, though it had been for 12 years that she did not stop trying. You can just imagine that all of these years that she would just quit. She would just throw in the towel and just not even worry about it. I'll just deal with this. But Mark indicates she went to many doctors and suffered a lot as a result of the treatment. Sometimes the treatment is worse than the disease. He also states she spent everything she had on the doctor visits and treatments. Now we have, Bob and I have United Healthcare insurance, and I think it's pretty good. You know, we've really gotten a lot of benefits and perks from it, but there's things that they won't even approve. He's supposed to have an MRI. They haven't called us back yet. That was back in January. So some things you're just not going to. Easy to become a pessimist, one who expects the worst. A specialist. I don't want to get a second, or third, or fourth, or fifth opinion. I don't want to do that. We have no desire to get excited anymore. She heard about a man who healed the sick, who caused the lame to walk. She heard about a man who could raise the dead, and she decided that I'm going to take this opportunity to go and see that man. No matter what it takes, because in those days, you did not go out in that condition. You were banned from public presence. I wonder how many times had she heard about Jesus? How many times had she heard and then thought in her mind, what can I do? Seeing Jesus was not like making an appointment with a doctor. You could just show up and you weren't turned away. He continually moved from place to place. Not even the fact that a multitude waited for him discouraged her. What makes this woman unusual and unassuming? She was confident that if she just touched him, not just be in the crowd, but her plan was to touch him. And you wonder, why did she figure that she could touch him versus just getting there and getting in his face? Because that's what I would have wanted to do. I would have wanted to just get so I could see him. Like that time when you met that singer and you stood there and you froze, you know? I could just imagine, you know, here I am in the presence of Jesus, and the words may not come out. I may just fall to his. So she gets into the crowd. And she was confident She was confident that a touch instead of a treatment would heal her. Her plan to touch was a decision of real courage. She lived in a man's world. Publicly, women had virtually no status at all. Women could not even speak to men who were not their husbands in public. For a woman to speak to a man in public was a serious matter. If her act of touching Jesus was noticed by someone in the crowd, the least she could expect from the crowd was a strong rebuke. And Jesus' reaction was an absolute unknown. This situation gives insight into why she planned to touch his garment. She was definitely determined. It was no simple task for her to get close enough to Jesus to touch him. And have you ever tried to work your way through a moving mass of pressing people? I can't really recall a time that I've had to get through a crowd, but you know, people are going to look at you like you're crazy. And you're trying to not step on their feet, and you know they're trying to get to the same place you're going. So you're trying to move in and out of a place that they're going in the same direction. So that makes it very uncomfortable for you and for them, especially if they're looking for the same thing you're looking for. She did not ask for help. She made no demands. She had no desire to call attention to herself or her condition. She did not want anyone to know what she did. She just wanted help with her need. Because of these qualities, she succeeded. She would not have been healed without her determination, courage, attitude, motive, and faith. If she had not had those qualities, she would have lived as a sick woman until her death. She refused to say, "He probably cannot help me either. I will never make it through that crowd. If I am discovered, there is no telling what will happen to me." So she persisted until she got close enough to just touch him. The second thing you should notice in Jesus' reaction, Jesus was immediately aware that someone drew from his power. Now let me tell you about Jesus that you already know, is that he was expecting her. So he knew she was going to be there. She didn't ask for the appointment to be there, and he knew all of these other people were going to be there too. So it was already destined that she was going to be healed. All she had to do was to show up. Now we have, I think the seating capacity in here is 250 seats. And I guarantee you, if we were to go out to the hospitals, you're going to see a lot of sick people in the hospitals. And if we go to under the bridge, the Poplar Street Bridge, you're going to find homeless people there. And so if you go to the homeless shelter down here off of State Street, you're going to find a lot of people. So it's not hard to find the people with the problems.
All right, come on.
But the people seem to not understand how important and how urgent their problems are, so that they can come and fill these seats, so that they can be healed, so that they can be made whole. And they don't even have to press their way in. All they have to do is just come in and have a seat. Brother Mayor sang a song, "The presence of the Lord is here." So if we want to get ourselves healed, delivered, set free, all we have to do is just come into the house. 9100 Lebanon Road. I hope somebody on there. And you don't have to meet a mass of people. But to have the excitement and the motivation that this lady had was just, all I need to do is just get in the house where he's at. And if I just touch a little bit of his garment, then I'll be made whole. That's all we need. That's all everybody else out there need to do, is to understand when they text somebody, because somebody's going to get a text today, right, Charlene? They're going to ask for something. They're going to call you. They're going to ask for something. And all they have to do is just come and sit by you in the church, right? And they can get everything that they need right here in the house. They They don't even have to text one person. They can come in the house and get healing and be made whole again. Instead of ringing the phone all the time when church is over. They can't come in during service, but they can call you after service. They can text you after service. You text them, they're not going to text you back because you might be wanting them to come with you.
Say that. Yeah.
Jesus' response had to have amazed this woman. He says, your faith healed you.
Well.
Your faith allowed this to happen. So, Mother Moore mentioned, now all you need is that little seed. Yeah. So we need to go and we need to hand out some seeds under the bridge. We need to go and we need to hand out some seeds at the homeless shelter. We need to go to the hospital and hand out some seeds in the hospital because that's all they need to be made whole. It's the faith that makes them whole. He said to her, go in peace. What comforting words is to go in peace. That means that whatever she came for had already happened. It had already occurred, even though it happened before she got there. Be cured. I wonder at the moment she fell before him that she had the awful fear that Thomas Hughes, I'm not talking about him. But there are people who, when something happens, they believe that it hasn't fully taken place. It hasn't fully run its course, so it's going to come back again. So I wonder if she even thought about that or she just went on her way. We don't hear any more about her. But she was important enough to be recorded in the scriptures. There was an incredible difference in just touching Jesus. Many people had touched him that day. Do we know if they got healed? Do we know? It wasn't recorded as such. But what was important is to know that this woman's faith made her whole. However, some of them may not have expected anything to happen. They were just there. They had heard about Jesus, and they were just there. And nothing happened. The woman touched Jesus for a reason with confidence. She wanted to be helped. She expected to be helped. And she was helped. The physical act of touching Jesus was the same for everyone. The power was present in Jesus when all touched him. The difference in the result was a difference in the people. That same difference is distinguishable today. Some study the word and are changed. Some read the word and nothing happens. Some pray and are closer to God. Some worship and are bored. The power is there, and it is the same. The difference is faith.
My Lord, my Lord, my Lord.
Faith moves mountains. The Lord's power will not benefit a person unless the person has faith. Jesus did not confine his miracles to believers. At times he healed people who did not know him. He healed a blind man. And in John 9, it says, Jesus heard that they had cast him out. And when he had found him, he said unto him, dost thou believe on the Son of God? And he answered, he said, who is he, the Lord, that I might believe on him? And Jesus said unto him, thou hast both seen him, and it is he that talketh with thee. And he said, Lord, I believe. And he worshiped him. Obviously, the dead bodies Jesus raised did not have faith. It was a manifestation of Jesus' power over death. At times, Jesus informed people that their faith allowed his power to work in them. For the person who asked Jesus to help him or her, it was essential for him or her to trust Jesus. There is no question that Jesus can help us in ways he has promised. There is power. The question is, do we have the confidence to let Jesus help us? Do you have the courage to have faith? Do you use your faith to express your courage? So in closing, is there anybody that needs to touch him today? Have you come to understand that whether you are lost in sin or whether you are battling a difficult situation, Jesus is the answer. Themselves, and you need help right now, we offer you Jesus. In that crowd that day, there were dozens of people with physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional needs. But there was only one lady that was recorded bold enough to reach out to him in the way that she did, as the only source. She believed he could help her, and she did whatever she had to do to touch him. So when she touched him, she was made whole. Don't be one of those people who brush up against Jesus this morning and leave unchanged. My mother used to say to people, she said, that felt like that they were smarter than she was. She said, oh, they just rubbed their head on the college wall. That means they didn't do anything. So we don't want church people to rub their head up against the church wall. We want you to get Jesus in you. So whatever your issue is today, whatever you need, he is a need-meeting God. Just do as he would have you to do today. Amen. Amen. This is Supper.
So